Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I'm your host, Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. You're me, proprietor, Tenkar's Tavern blog. I've been seeing this whole session zero stuff popping up in my feeds again. And I know there's a whole thing about like, oh, the OSR, we don't need a session zero. You may or may not. I mean, if you're playing with an established group that you know well, you don't need a session zero because you've had your session zero. If you are organizing a new group, well, in the OSR, session zero is where we take the putty, we take the naked character and turn it into the basic of what will, throughout the campaign, become full-blown PCs. But at session zero, or session one, whatever you want to call it, this is what you're looking at, what's on the screen. Very basic, pure, and unadulterated. So what is session zero in the OSR? Session zero in the OSR is, hey, I don't allow gnomes in my campaign. My name is Matt Jackson. There's no gnomes in my campaign. If you're Matt Jackson and there's no gnomes in your campaign, then you'll announce that at the initial session. And listen, they call it session zero. This could be the first session. In an OSR game, your characters don't take a full session to create most rule sets, right? It's pretty quick. But when you establish the basics, if there are house rules, if you're Joe the lawyer with 20 pages of house rules by the book, this is where you introduce your house rules. You want to make sure everybody knows from the beginning if there's any changes to the way the rules are written. That's where you mention them. Now, in gameplay, you may find that, hey, there's a rule that doesn't make much sense. You establish a replacement rule, you establish a house rule, and that gets added to it. You don't always know that at session zero or the first session. Session zero in like 5e is for the players to tell all their issues. No. And generally in an OSR game, session zero is for the DM's benefit. All right, I've got a party that doesn't have any clerics or priests or druids. I've got a party that has no built-in healing. Well, I'm not saying that's a great way to start your campaign, but it's happened to me. You have to be prepared. Maybe you're going to add more healing potions. Maybe you're going to kill off a PC in that first session or two and remind them they probably need a healer. The truth is, though, right, those first few sessions, healing isn't the be-all and end-all. It's once player characters have advanced a bit that healing becomes an issue. So that's not an issue that might not even be seen by your players in session zero. That's something the DM has to point out. Well, you might be okay for your first few adventures without having anybody to heal you. But you're going to need to find a way to compensate for that later. Maybe you should take care of that now. Session zero is where players' expectations should be listened to. Not everybody has a long-term goal for their characters, but some people do. Hey, I want to get my fighter high enough to, at some point, have a manor. All right, as a DM, you make a note of that this is player John Smith's goal. The wizard might want to have a school later on. The thief might just be worried about personal wealth. He doesn't want a thieves guild. He's worried about finding new shit. That's fine. The cleric may be about spreading the word of his god, or maybe he wants to keep a low profile. Pretend that he's a fighter. this is where this stuff gets sorted. It's not about where, in general, you need to go, oh, well, you've got an issue with spiders. Well, all right, I'll make sure I don't have any spiders in any of these games. Because honestly, if you are playing RPGs and you have issues like that, I'm the DM. I'm not going to ask you. You better come out and bring it up. Hey, listen, I got stuck in a room with spiders for 12 hours as a kid, and they were all over me. All right. We'll gloss over those fights. I won't go into detail. But it's not about, the OSR games are not about the player. They're not about the DM. And this actually should apply to any RPG. It's about the group. And there's got to be a give and take as a group for the group's benefit. Right? Sometimes you play a character class that you weren't really feeling it, but you knew it fit the group best. And then maybe through emergent play, you find you enjoy it. Whereas I find that a lot of younger players, and that was probably true when I was younger, you had this vision. I got to play a paladin. Whether the party needs it or not, that's what I'm playing. And as you get older, not just as a more experienced player, but as you mature, that session 0 is where the party decides, well, who's going to, all right, who really wants to be? Like, I don't care listen, whatever the party needs, I'm happy to take. Well, you're going to be stuck with that role for the rest of this campaign. I'll make it work. I'll enjoy it. That's what session 0 is, or should be, for an OSR game. I would go as far as to say it should be for further games. But even after session 0, that image on the screen is your character. Maybe you got some armor on them and a weapon, and you got some basics, but they're not defined. In an OSR campaign, an OSR game, your character gets defined not in session 0. Your character gets defined by emergent play. And I think that is forgotten in the later editions. And that is forgotten with some of the younger players that want all their gratification up front. And there are older players that are like that too. I'm generalizing. Don't kill the messenger. But emergent play, what your character becomes because of their trials and tribulations, their successes and failures, is what I come back to gaming for. That's what makes it fun for me. I would assume for most of my listeners, it makes it fun for you. So take this clay, take the clay figures, and run with them and watch them evolve. Session 0, you take the clay out. By the time you hit session 10, 15, 20, they should be looking like pieces of art. All individuals, all different. All right, folks, on that note, that's a live stream tonight. My wife and I, Gamers Health. We are going to be touching on seasonal depression. What days are getting shorter? All right, less sunlight. Some people are greatly affected by that. We're going to talk about that and some methods you can use to combat some of the symptoms. All right, folks, on that note, as always, be safe, be well, God bless, roll those dice, roll them well. I'll catch you all again later.